I've always had a hard time drawing characters in a way that doesn't match the source material. Like when I was 5 and my mom had bought me a coloring book for a show I had never seen before. Since I didn't know what the characters' color palettes were, I didn't use the coloring book. It wasn't until last year when I had gotten back into Greek mythology fandoms that I started redesigning and making my own designs for characters. Originally, I was just going to draw the deities as they were in the myths, but seeing all the amazing designs people had come up with, I wanted to make my own designs too. Point being that I've started getting more comfortable redesigning characters, so I decided to make a video where I redesigned the Decay of Angels, plus Mushitaro and Ivan. So for redesigning, I decided I wanted to start with Mushitaro. For the most part, all I really changed was his shapes. I gave him shoulder pads and made him have an overall more rectangular look. And I didn't know, but I had assumed he had always had pinstripes on his suit, but when going back to check his design for reference while drawing him, I realized that he did not have pinstripes, which just leads more into the jokes that he looks like the Onceler. Mushitaro is probably one of my favorite Bungo Stray Dogs characters. I find his character very endearing and funny. I liked the balance that his character had of funny moments and serious moments. With his personality and how he interacted with other characters, I found it very interesting throughout the show. When thinking about Bram's redesign, I didn't exactly know what I wanted, because with his original design, I wasn't the biggest fan of it, but I found it tolerable because of the fact that it ended up being used for Fyodor. But I do think that the fur matched Fyodor. I don't think that the fur really matched Bram. That was something I try to keep in mind while redesigning him, is the fact that Fyodor would end up with this outfit. Overall, I just try to give him more blues and add a little bit of red with the brooch to match his eyes. I made his hair longer because, as I've mentioned before, I am a sucker for long hair character designs. I feel like in the anime and manga, we don't really get to see enough of Bram. Like, when he ended up just dying as soon as he got his body back, I was a bit confused. Like, I didn't actually think he was gonna die, because there was this whole entire story of trying to get him back his body and how he was super important to the plan to kill Fyodor. So him just dying super quickly wasn't something I really liked, but I did enjoy his character, and I did like the way he interacted with Aya. Now, Sigma was actually the first Bungo Stray Dogs character I redesigned, and actually the whole inspiration behind this video. I already loved Sigma's design, so there was definitely a lot of things that I wanted to keep for the redesign, such as the stars in the coat, the heels, and the earrings. But I also just wanted to add my little spin on giving her more of a style that I thought would suit her. So I decided to shorten his sleeves, make him puff out, give him gloves, and more star motifs throughout the outfit. And the pants design I had actually seen on Pinterest, and I thought that they really matched her character and the way that her hair is, that they looked similar enough that I thought it would look cute together. With the color palette, I try to stick with purple, blue, and white as the main colors, since those colors are very prominent in the original design. And overall, I just wanted to give her a very elegant design. Sigma probably is my favorite Bungo Stray Dogs character. I love his story, his personality, and design. And when he was stabbed by Fyodor, that was like the first time a show had actually made me cry. I got a little teary-eyed at that moment. I really relate to her goal of just wanting to have a home. And because of that, he quickly became one of my favorite characters. For Nikolai, I had absolutely no clue what to do because I already love Nikolai's design. Like, no notes, perfect. So I was struggling to come up with anything that I could change. And most of the changes I did make, you can't really see because the changes I decided on were like more scars and tattoos, which obviously are all covered up by the outfit. But I did change a few things about Nikolai's outfit. I added a like clown ruffle, I don't know what they're called, around the neck and wrists. I kept the pom-poms that were red along with the red gloves because I do feel like the red did a good job of breaking up the black and white color palette Nikolai has. I love it when a character's color palette is cohesive and it flows well. And because of that, I do tend to like characters who have more so basic color palettes because I feel like those work together a lot easier and are easier to view than like color palettes that have many different colors. Not to say that I don't like characters that have many different colors, it's just I've seen that I tend to prefer ones that are more monochrome. So I feel like that's a big reason why I do like Nikolai's character design is because of the fact that it is a monochrome jester outfit, and I love jesters and I love the color palette. I did also give Nikolai clown makeup, or at least some. I didn't want to give too much because I didn't want it to cover up his scar. I feel like his scar is a very important part of his character, so I felt like giving him too much clown makeup would cover it up and take away from the design rather than give to the design. Fyodor's redesign is probably the one I was looking forward to the most, and that is because I cannot stand his shirt. There's nothing inherently wrong with the shirt, it's more so I have a problem with the color palette he has. Unlike characters like Sigma and Nikolai, Fyodor's color palette is just all over the place. He has a little bit of purple, a little bit of red, a little bit of magenta, a little bit of cream, and a little bit of dark brown. I feel like it's too many colors that don't go good enough together for it to work. So, while redesigning Fyodor, I decided I would choose a color to focus on, which that ended up being purple. I already associate Fyodor's character with the color purple, so I decided that would probably be the best color to stick with through the design. As much as I loved Fyodor's boots, honestly, I think that might have been one of my favorite parts of his design. They had to go because I needed them to be a darker purple, the same color as his gloves I gave him. The fur that he has for his hat and cape ended up being darker than in the actual show because I felt like the white that he had for those two furs made the outfit too heavy on the color white, and kind of like how with Nikolai, how he has little red pom-pom that separates the black and white and kind of gives it a little bit of a pop of color. I wanted Fyodor's to have still a few different colors, not just solely purple and white. I decided to make his shirt purple, a light lavender purple, to keep that purple color palette, but also make it to where it matched the rest of the design. For his hair, I made the bangs spike out a little bit because when I think evil, I think spiky hair, but I also wanted it to still look kind of oily and long because that's how I envision him. And for his eyes, I decided to add little swirls, and that's because swirls are another thing that I associate with villain characters. Because of William Afton, I've always drawn his eyes with little swirls, and so because of that, I associate villains with swirly eyes. I feel like Ivan's character isn't utilized enough in Bungo Stray Dogs. They had such an interesting power, are shown to be quite strong, and obviously was lobotomized to have a deep following for Fyodor. And I feel like Ivan could have had so much more potential if given more screen time, but as soon as I saw Ivan, I immediately fell in love with his character. And I feel like it's a great polar opposite of Nikolai in a sense. Nikolai is also borderline obsessed with Fyodor, but craves freedom, as where Ivan is obsessed with Fyodor because he was forced to be. And I feel like that just adds to how interesting Ivan is. For designing, Ivan's color palette is blue, brown, and white. And although I love this color palette, it is a color palette I wear on the regular, I did want to give Ivan a bit more of a lively color palette. So I decided to more saturate the brown and make it more of an orangey color, along with replacing white with a very light pale baby blue. I changed its suit from brown to a dark navy blue. I made their skin more of a tan and replaced the white shirt with light blue shirt. I also decided to make Ivan's hair more stringy and stick out in more places where the bandages would have pushed against. Overall, I wanted Ivan to look a bit more frazzled than it does in the anime, because I feel like anime Ivan looks quite put together, at least until they started fighting him. But I wanted Ivan to have kind of messy hair and look kind of unnerving with an unnatural smile constantly. So with Fukuchi's design, I actually hadn't realized until I had gone to draw it that while doing the sketch, I just drew Fukuchi. I don't know what happened. I guess I zoned out while drawing and just copied what I was seeing on the reference completely. but I ended up fixing it as I went along. I decided I wanted to give Fukuchi more of a dark red for the outfit, like darker than I would give the hunting dogs. I also decided to give him more facial hair because I feel like not enough Bungo Stray Dog characters have facial hair. I also added little pouches that would be filled with like things he can use as projectiles because considering his ability, I feel like having little things on hand that can count as weapons would be very useful for him because in a pinch he can turn basically anything into a weapon, so having something that he can use as a weapon that he uses projectile weapon would work well. I decided to make his design even more red than it was in the anime. While watching the anime, I wasn't really fond of Fukuchi's character. I do feel like I didn't see him enough to actually like him. Like there wasn't enough time to get to know his character as well. Maybe that's just me though. I do like how, in contrast to Fyodor, his goal does seem a lot more noble, and that he had the right idea, just went about it the wrong way.